Thank you so much. What do you children used to play?
We used to jump rope. And us older girls, they'd grab us by the arms and spin us around. We played ball too. We played hide and seek and all those kinds of games.
Did you go to the river?
The river was quite far for us, but there was a stream that passed near the village. We went to the stream, and we'd get into it and our fun was catching frogs. You know? Catching frogs and tadpoles. And of course, when they started jumping in our hands, we'd get scared and throw them back into the stream, you know? And I don't remember much else.
Uh, Who do you went with to the river? Who do you used to go with?
With friends. Nothing bad happened back then. It was normal. We went with our friends. My brother came with us too, you know? And the brothers of the other girls. But back then kids roamed free and nothing happened. You know, there was a different sense of morality, a different sense of morality. If someone did something wrong, they paid for it. You know, well, it's just that kids weren't attacked. Back then it was a small village. We all knew each other, and no one was going to hurt us. We could be at the stream all morning playing and nothing would happen to us.
There were much less people than today, I suppose.
Very few people, and our parents, well, they weren't. They weren't. Let's see, they weren't confrontational, but they wouldn't let anyone mess with their kids. Now I remember something. Shall I tell you?
Of course, by all means.
A circus came, you know? A circus came, and it was the day they light pumpkins. You know, Halloween. But no, that didn't exist then. That came from America later on. Anyway, my husband would take melons, hollow them out, carve a little hole, and put in a tiny candle, one of those really small ones. And that was our lantern. He made us a lantern, right? There was a boy from the circus walking up and down the streets. Of course, there were only two streets here. Kids were roaming freely, back and forth. And he kept putting out my brothers and my lanterns, right? And there were plenty of kids with lanterns. But for some reason, he picked us. We kept saying, "He's blown out our lantern again. Give it here, I'll light it again." But he'd blow it out again. My brother had a lot of patience, and after the third time he said, "Go out one more time with the lantern. Let's see if he dares to blow it out again." And sure enough, he did. But Dad came out. I don't know what he said to that boy, but he vanished and never touched our lanterns again.
What other kinds of fun you had when you were little?
When we were little, like I said, not much else. Then when we were a bit older, my friends and I, we couldn't wait for a dance or a wedding. We weren't invited, of course, because we were just kids. But we'd go anyway. We'd grab the hem of our skirts, you know? With our own dresses, we'd lift the hem like this, and they'd give us sweets. The person handing out the sweets would give us cakes, you know? Pastries. And then we'd stay for the dance. That was my favorite thing, the dancing. When I got home to Mum with a bundle of good pastries, my little brothers, and Mum, who had a sweet tooth, got so happy, you know.
How was the festivals like?
The festivals were beautiful, because they weren't like today's fairs. They were village celebrations, and there'd be dancing at night. The first day, not much happened until the evening. The second day, we were out in the street all day. And the ribbon day, well, almost all day too, since it was the last one, you know?
What was the ribbon day?
The ribbon. Do you know what that was? The young women, well, the mayordomos, the ones who organized the celebrations, gave us a strip of fabric. One in blue, another in different colors, you know? And we'd embroider our names on them. But that was when we were older girls. We'd embroider our names, and then roll them up and hang them on a rope between two poles. And the boys had to catch the ribbon, which meant riding their bikes and trying to snatch one with a little stick. That was the ribbon day. And before all that, Well, in such a small village where there was nothing, whenever a music band from another town came, people went wild with joy. And Grandpa, who had been a musician in the village, it was his village, he'd say to me, "Come, the musicians are here. Let's go, quick." You know. And he'd take me to welcome the band. They came with big-headed puppets. You know what cabezudos are, right? Of course. And for me, that was the greatest thing. Every year he'd take me to see the music arrive. You know? That was my childhood. And that was it. We were happy. We were happy, even in the poverty we had. We were happy. Maybe even happier than people are now. Now that people have everything, you know? They've got everything. But kids today are so pressured to study. You know what I mean? It drives them crazy. They carry huge backpacks full of books, computers, everything. They don't have time to play. You know. They've got no time. No time at all.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. You know, sometimes looking back is not nostalgia, it is a living memory. What we heard today is not just a personal story, it's a voice that represents thousands of women, men, children who grew up in a rural Spain, shaped by scarcity, hard work, and a simple yet deeply human life. This voice, recreated through artificial intelligence to protect her privacy, belongs to someone who lived a childhood without luxuries, without shoes, without books, but full of love. And maybe that's everything, because even in poverty, even in the harshness of the fields, there was still room to share a piece of bread, to invite a friend to the local festival, or to smile even when the table was empty. Here at Jose Martin Composer, we don't just talk about music, we talk about legacy, about what we feel, about what must not be forgotten. Because if we don't document these stories, if we do not preserve them, the wind takes them away, and with them, a part of who we are. This interview is a testimony, a bridge between generations, a small act of resistance against time, and above all, a tribute to those who worked since childhood, who learned more from life than from books, who knew how to be happy with little, and who never stopped loving. Thank you for being here, thank you for listening, and most of all, thank you for remembering with us. Thank you so much for being here from my heart, from all of us hearts. Thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing your memories.
Thanks to you, Jose. It has been an extraordinary experience. Thank you for keeping our memories alive and for rescuing those long-forgotten memories. I truly hope that our audience and friends have learned and have remembered things from our time. A time where giving was the norm and loving was the standard between us. Thank you so much for having me.
Sometimes listening to the life of someone who came before us is like opening a window to another world. A world without luxuries, without rush, but full of the kind of truth that's hard to find today. The truth of effort, of dignity, of unconditional love. This story is not just a memory from the past. It is a trace, a beautiful scar that reminds us that was a time when, with just a piece of bread, a little oil and a smile, you could build an entire childhood. Today we live surrounded by screens, by endless options, by noise that won't let us hear what really matters. And that's why here at Jose Martin Composer we take the time to listen, to look back not with sadness but with respect. To give voice, even if it's digitally, to those who, out of privacy or modesty, chose to remain unseen. Because the story matters, because the story belongs to all of us. The voice you heard was generated by artificial intelligence solely to preserve this memory, to protect the identity of the person who shared it, and to pay tribute to a generation who knew what it's really like to live with little and yet feel fulfilled. Within these testimonies lies a quiet wisdom, one you won't find in books or social media. It is in hands worn out by the fields, in mothers who cooked lentils as if they were like feasts, in young girls who worked in silence, dreaming of a better world for their children. If there is something we can learn from all this, it is that happiness doesn't depend on what we have, but on how we love, how we care, how we remember. Thank you for being here. Thank you for honoring this story, and above all, thank you for keeping memory alive. See you in the next interview, where music and soul meet.